is if we look at the Middle East, I think it's about time we stop, those of us who support, as most of us do, Israel in this body, for apologizing for our support for Israel. There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel.
I'd go through. I thank the distinguished ranking member of the committee, Senator Pell.
Madam President.
Senator from Rhode Island.
Madam President, I yield 5 minutes to the Senator from Delaware.
I thank my colleague. Madam President, in the 1600s, Voltaire said, if we believe in absurdities, we are bound to commit atrocities. And I would suggest to you that our Middle East policy under both Democrats and Republican presidents has been riddled with some absurdities. One of the absurdities is the mythical notion that the Saudis, even if they were so predisposed, are able to be agents of change and able to be agents of U.S. interest in the Persian Gulf region. The fact of the matter is, I find myself falling somewhere between my colleagues from Arizona. I think the criticisms of Saudi Arabia's unwillingness to defund the PLO, of Saudi Arabia's willingness to speak more forcefully in the UN on behalf of the United States, of the criticism of the Saudis' unwillingness to be more a positive force in the peace process, are a little unfair to the Saudis. Quite frankly, the Saudis are an 80-member family oligarchy that finds themselves adrift in the midst of an Islamic revolution, the consequences of which they do not comprehend any more than we. Saudi Arabia, the government of Saudi Arabia, is the anachronism of the 20th century in the Middle East. And the fact of the matter is, to use that phrase twice, the Saudis have no choice but to fund the PLO. The Saudis have no choice but to be supportive of their Arab brethren. The Saudis have no choice but to do that. For, in fact, about 55,000 Palestinians control the infrastructure of Saudi Arabia. They literally have their hands on the spigots that control the oil. And so I would suggest to my colleagues, we should not be viewing this so much in terms of whether or not the Saudis are good guys or bad guys. We should view it in terms of what is realistic. And, Madam President, it is this senator's opinion that it is totally unrealistic to expect the Saudis, with or without our help in terms of arms sales, to do anything other than maintain a policy which they have had, which is one that is not particularly helpful to our interest. And furthermore, I would suggest to my colleagues in the Senate that we are doing a disservice to Saudi Arabia. Up to now, Saudi Arabia, in Middle East wars, and God forbid should there be another one, in Middle East wars have been able to say to their Arab brethren, when their Arab brethren have said, come to the mutual aid of the Arab world, the Saudis have had nothing to send. No great standing army, no bivvy of sophisticated weapons, and they've been able to stand back and say, we'll hold your coat and send money. For I believe the Saudis do not want to have a war with Israel. But I believe once we send their arsenal soaring in terms of sophisticated weapons, they will be put in the untenable position the next time there is a conflict in the region of having to get directly involved, of having to move with their Arab brethren. For if they don't, they will be moved. Now, I think we should be much more sophisticated about how we view this. It is not, as my friend from Arizona, Senator Goldwater, suggested. This does not have anything to do with Israel. We can sell these weapons to the Saudis and it will not fundamentally change Israel's balance in the region. But if we sell these weapons to Saudi Arabia, we will be putting Saudi Arabia further and further in the hole, where they are bound as a matter of their own regional self-interest to support whatever would come next. And I would suggest to my colleagues that we should oppose this sale because it's a reflection of the lack of a coherent foreign policy, any more than any other single action we've taken in the Middle East. We do not have a Middle East foreign policy at this moment. And to suggest that we are going to substitute an arms sales package for a policy in the name of trying to suggest that this is a litmus test once again. I've been here 14 years. I'm tired of being subjected to litmus tests by the Saudis, litmus tests by anyone else. We should operate and move in what is the naked self-interest of the United States of America. And if we wish to help the Saudis, what we should be doing for Saudi Arabia is helping them with their infrastructure as it relates to their domestic security requirements. We should be dealing with not whether or not they have AWACS aircraft and sophisticated weapons, and I realize this is not AWACS. We should not be dealing with that. We should be dealing with their ability to protect their own internal security from within. And the last comment I'll make, Madam President, is if we look at the Middle East, I think it's about time we stop, those of us who support, as most of us do, Israel in this body, for apologizing for our support for Israel. There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel. I am with my colleagues who are on the floor in the Foreign Relations Committee, and we worry at length about NATO. And we worry about the eastern flank of NATO, Greece and Turkey, and how important it is. They pale by comparison. May I have one more minute, I ask my colleague?
Danke.